Tonight, major bust. RCMP sees weapons and illicit drugs. Danger rating. Extreme wildfire conditions in parts of Northeast BC. And for a good cause, a local fundraiser to fight crime in the Peace Region. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And we begin tonight with a major drug and weapons bust. The RCMP putting a big dent in the Peace Region drug trade. The Uniform Gang Enforcement Team was deployed to Dawson Creek at the beginning of May. 33 arrests were made involving 27 separate investigations. Police seizing guns, ammunition, knives, even tasers. They also seized over 1 kilogram of illicit drugs, including crack cocaine, crystal meth, and fentanyl. $12,500 in cash was also seized. Mounties saying this is a serious blow to drug traffickers and those who are associated with the ongoing drug war in the Peace Region. Now, charges have yet to be laid while the investigations continue. With close to 20 wildfires burning across Northeast BC, dry conditions are cause for concern. The dry fire danger rating is extreme just west of Chetwynd and east of Fort St. John. It's also rated as extreme near Halfway River. The rating is high for Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, and Fort Nelson. And that means the forests are very dry and the fire risk is serious. The BC Wildfire Service says new fires may start easily, burn vigorously, and challenge fire suppression efforts. There's currently a Category 2 and 3 open burning ban in Northeast BC, and the public is being reminded to take care, report any fires as quickly as possible. Well, the rebuild remains slow in Lytton, which was almost entirely burned in a wildfire nearly 4 years ago. But one day at a time, volunteers in the town are building back hope. Michelle Bernaro reports.
They've figured out how to cut through the logistical challenges.
There is no services. There's no Home Depot nearby. There's no Rona.
To offer a measured gift of time and expertise.
We've had an incredible experience of working with very skilled volunteers.
Mennonite Disaster Service, with volunteers who've come from across BC and other parts of Canada, is rebuilding this home in Lytton, burned in the wildfire of June 2021, along with most of the village.
You form a relationship with these folks. You're really helping them from a very, very traumatic, difficult time to a place where they can call it home again.
This is the second home that Mennonite Disaster Service has rebuilt in Lytton. The first one is actually just next door. The owners of this house able to move in last summer.
Making communities better, making people's lives better. That's why I do it.
Those being helped by MDS had either no insurance or not enough when fire destroyed about 90% of the village. In total, about 40% of homeowners did not have insurance. So far, only 11 home rebuilds have been finished in Lytton. Some former residents still displaced.
Yeah, there's still people living in family spare bedrooms.
It's been a very long, difficult process, and mostly for the people, older people. Some can't come back. Some have passed away.
BC's Auditor General continues to drill down on the province's role in Lytton's ongoing recovery, including challenges faced in rebuilding. A report is expected by fall. Before then, this house will be finished and one more Lytton family will be back home. Michelle Bernaro, CTV News, Lytton.
The province is once again facing pushback over its proposed Infrastructure Project Act as it races to make Bill 15 law before the legislature pauses for the summer next week. The First Nations Leadership Council and the Union of BC Municipalities releasing a joint statement today. It's calling on the province to withdraw the bill, which just passed its second reading. It was drafted in response to U.S. tariffs and would give the government broad powers to fast-track the permitting process for infrastructure projects deemed provincially significant. First Nations leaders and local governments argue the bill was drafted without proper consultation, with one member of the First Nations Summit calling it a rollback of reconciliation that will put us back decades. It's time for Western Canada to become the country's economic engine. That's part of what Western premiers concluded after a two-day conference wrapped up in Yellowknife today. Issues like housing, tariffs, trade, and Arctic sovereignty are on the agenda. But rumblings of Western separation fueled by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith introducing legislation that makes a referendum on the issue easier was also on the leader's mind.
It's really unfortunate that at this moment, when Western Canada is stepping into the spotlight, that there's any discussion at all.
Not talking about it, then they're all keenly aware that it's lurking in the background.
Energy, including pipelines and electricities, were also major topics of conversation during the conference. A former senior medical officer with Alberta Health Services has agreed to have his doctor's license permanently terminated. Dr. Albert Devilliers is currently serving a 5.5-year sentence for sexual interference with a young boy. A second charge of sexual assault was stayed. The crimes took place from 2018 to 2020 when he was working in Grand Prairie. The boy testified he was molested on 5 to 8 occasions starting when he was 7 years old. Devilliers then moved to the Okanagan. He was the chief medical officer of health for the Interior Health Authority. Devilliers entered a consent agreement with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of British Columbia. He voluntarily surrendered his license and agreed to not reapply for registration to practice medicine in British Columbia or any other jurisdiction ever. To Edmonton, where police are looking for an offender who was released from a correctional center because of an alleged fake letter. Police say Mackenzie Dawn Hardy was released as a result of fraudulent reports that her charges were stayed. A warrant is now out for her arrest. The province confirms a person was released from custody after receiving documents that appeared to provide the proper authority to do so. It says procedural changes have been implemented. There's still no deal between Canada Post and its union, with less than 24 hours before a planned walkout is set to happen. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says the latest offer from the Crown Corporation falls short. It says it's still reviewing the proposal, but already some areas, including wages and cost of living adjustments, are disappointing. The latest offer from Canada Post amounts to a little more than 13% in wage increases over 4 years. As for the union, it's looking for closer to 19%. Canada has summoned the Israeli ambassador after shots were fired near Canadian delegates touring the occupied West Bank.
We expect a immediate explanation of what happened. It's totally unacceptable. It's some of many things that are totally unacceptable that's going on in the region.
The group of foreign delegates, including 4 Canadians, came under fire in the city of Jenin. Israel says the group deviated from an approved route and that it fired what it calls warning shots, adding that it, quote, regrets the inconvenience, unquote. Prime Minister Mark Carney is demanding a full investigation. Officials are calling the murder of 2 young Israeli embassy workers in Washington, D.C. an act of anti-Semitism. The couple were gunned down outside a Jewish museum by a suspect who yelled, "Free Palestine." That suspect has now been charged with murder. CTV's Judy Trin has the latest.
Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were set to be engaged later this summer. Instead, they were killed before they could begin their life together, gunned down outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C.
He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents.
The suspect has been identified as 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez. He was seen pacing outside the museum before the shooting.
So he pulls out his keffiyeh and he says, "I did it. I did it for Gaza. Free, free Palestine." And he's chanting this. And then suddenly the police come in and they arrest him.
On social media, President Donald Trump offered his condolences to the families and said the D.C. killings were obviously based on anti-Semitism and must end now. Officials say the suspect targeted the Jewish community but acted alone. In the Toronto area, police say they will increase patrols around synagogues and Jewish community centers.
My thoughts are with their friends, their families, and the broader Jewish community, not only in the United States, but here in Canada. The rise in anti-Semitism is unacceptable.
Since the October 7th Hamas attacks, anti-Semitic acts have increased across the globe. They've included vandalism, arson, and assaults. And now this escalation to murder are leaving Jewish communities in Canada feeling vulnerable.
We're at a point now here where if we're going to host an event in Canada as a community, the details of that event aren't circulated until a few hours beforehand, out of concern for the safety of people who are coming together. That's intolerable.
Earlier this week, Canada, Great Britain, and France threatened sanctions against Israel for expanding its offensive in Gaza and blocking humanitarian aid. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused the leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney, of siding with mass murderers, baby killers, and rapists, and being on the wrong side of history. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
And staying in the U.S. Capitol, the House of Representatives have passed Donald Trump's sweeping tax bill by a razor-thin margin.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
The bill would add $3.8 trillion to the U.S. debt over the next decade. 2 Republicans voted against it, as did all of the Democrats. The bill will deliver tax cuts on tips and car loans, boost spending on the military and border enforcement, while cutting into Medicaid and food stamps. The package now goes to the Republican-controlled Senate for approval. Well, last week, Loblaws and Walmart announced they would be raising prices on certain items due to the ongoing trade war with the U.S. involving tariffs. Today, other companies like Nike said they would be raising their prices for shoes and apparels, while Ralph Lauren says it too may have to hike the cost of its goods. CTV's Pat Foran reports.
More than half of U.S. businesses surveyed by the Alliance Insurance Company say they plan to raise prices to cover the added costs of tariffs. For Canadians ordering products that come from outside of Canada, it means you could end up paying more.
There's a bit of a shock right now, a sticker shock.
Some consumers are contacting CTV News to say their online orders are showing additional charges for duties and tariffs. This towel, listed for $95, came to $209 with shipping, duties, and taxes. On another website, a $120 dress had duties of $21.60. On TikTok, a fan of Tate McRae was shocked when more than $100 was added to her clothing purchase from the singer's website.
$134 for government charges. I'm sorry, is Tate McRae works for the government?
It's a bit of a weird situation right now. Different manufacturers, smaller ones, are deciding how they want to show that tariff, if they want to show it at all.
While companies are dealing with the tariffs differently, most analysts agree they will cause consumer goods to cost more.
Prices are going to increase as a consequence of the current sort of geopolitical dynamics, specifically between the U.S. and Canada.
This marketing professor says now when you're buying an item, you should try to find out the seller's location and any tariffs that will be applied.
And if you're ordering from outside Canada, you're more likely to pay duties and import taxes, even if the site is a Canadian URL or prices are in Canadian dollars.
There is also a concern about big ticket items like the cost of vehicles. With the uncertainty in the auto market, many Canadians have purchased new and used cars over the past 3 months. Auto Trader says it expects prices to continue to rise if the tariff situation remains the same.
If they need to buy a car, buy it now, because if this is long term, prices might go up even further. So if you're on the sidelines, if you have the financial means, pull the trigger.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
All right, please do stay tuned. I'll be right back with weather, and it's shaping up to be a pretty nice weekend. All that coming up after the break.